I sent the message right after takeoff. Group chat, no dramatic punctuation, no desperate emojis, just. Flight lands at 3 p.m. Can someone pick me up? I had just buried my husband. A military funeral overseas, folded flag. 21 guns, a casket that felt heavier than anything I've ever carried. Though I wasn't the one lifting it. We'd been married for years, most of those spent apart. Deployments don't care about anniversaries. But love doesn't keep receipts, so I didn't ask for much, just a ride home. The reply came before we even reached cruising altitude. My brother, we're busy, try Uber. Then 2 minutes later, my mom, why didn't you plan better? No, how was the funeral? No, we're so sorry. No, we're proud of him. Just that, cold, fast, clean. I sat by the window, the plane lifting above the clouds, and stared into the kind of silence that doesn't come from grief. It comes from realization. You think family holds you, but sometimes they hold the knife. So, I typed one sentence back. No worries. That was it. No fight, no guilt trip. Just silence. When we landed, I didn't cry, didn't beg. I pulled my coat tight, walked past the baggage carousel, past the other passengers hugging their people, and stepped into a black SUV already waiting by the curb. Because here's the thing, while they were busy, while they were judging, they didn't know who else had flown back with me, or what I'd brought with me from the base, or who was waiting behind the headlines. That night, I didn't send a follow-up message. Didn't post a single word. But when the 9 o'clock news started, when their phones lit up with live coverage, I know they saw it. I know they dropped their forks. I know my mother's wine glass hit the tile, and I know one thing for sure, they'll never forget what I did. Next. The clip ran less than 60 seconds. But that's all it took. Evening news, middle of the broadcast, right after the weather, right before sports. The anchor spoke with that trained calm. The kind that delivers tragedies and triumphs in the same breath. Today, a widow returned home from her husband's overseas military burial, alone but not unnoticed. Then came the footage. Black SUV, airport curb. Me stepping out still in black. Flag folded, triangle held against my chest. And behind me, 3 uniformed Marines, 2 women, 1 man all in full dress. They didn't just escort me, they stood behind me, shoulders squared, backs straight like shields. The camera zoomed in just enough to capture the moment I turned and handed something to one of them, a small box, white ribboned. In an unexpected twist, the reporter continued. The widow was met not by family, but by her husband's former unit, who arranged a military-led tribute and personal escort. She declined interviews, but left behind one handwritten note for the press. Then the screen filled with my handwriting, my words clear, steady. If you ever find yourself standing alone at the edge of grief, don't look for people who left you there. Look for the ones who show up anyway. They didn't say my full name. They didn't have to. Everyone in that group chat knew exactly what they were watching. The camera panned out. Final shot, me walking away between 2 Marines, head high, back straight, into the black SUV. No tears, no interview. No begging for sympathy, just truth broadcast on every major channel. And in living rooms across the city, in my mother's kitchen. In my brother's condo, phones were dropped, forks clattered. Silence filled the spaces they thought were safe. They had sent a message. And now, so had I. The group chat was silent for the next 24 hours. No reactions, no apologies, not even I just saw the news, but silence tells its own story. And theirs was starting to unravel. My sister Nella messaged privately. Was that you, on Channel 5? I didn't answer. She didn't ask again, but word was spreading. That image of me, flanked by Marines wrapped in grief, but standing like a statue, was everywhere. And behind the scenes, the people who left me stranded were scrambling to rewrite history. My mom tried first. She posted an old photo of me and my brother, maybe 7 or 8 years old, holding hands at a 4th of July parade. Captioned, "Family above all, always." I didn't like it. Didn't comment. Didn't need to be, cause the top reply was from someone else. You didn't even pick her up from the airport. It got shared. And then shared again. Not by me, by people who still believe loyalty is a two-way street. Then came my brother's turn. He sent a text. One line, didn't realize it was that serious. You should have said something. I read it twice, laughed once, as if grief needs to RSVP, as if burying my husband in a country they can't even pronounce was something I should have packaged better. I typed one reply, deleted it, typed another, deleted that too, And finally, I just sent you a major choice. So did I. No anger, no punctuation, just a mirror. And the best part, I didn't have to say anything else because the media had already requested a follow-up segment. And this time, they wanted me to speak, not just walk, not just mourn. They wanted the story. And I had every intention of telling it. I didn't plan on speaking. I didn't want to, but silence protects the wrong people sometimes. So when the news station called again, asked if I'd be willing to share a widow's voice, I said yes. Not for sympathy, not for views, for truth. The interview was taped in a quiet studio. No flashy lights, just a camera, a mic, and the anchor across from me with soft eyes and a steady tone. He asked the first question carefully. What happened when you landed? I took a breath, then said the line I'd been holding in my chest for days. I buried my husband with honor and came home to silence. The room held still. Even the cameraman stopped shifting. I told them what happened, how I sent one simple message, how I received 2 replies colder than the wind outside that airport terminal, how I didn't get picked up. But I did get surrounded by people in uniform, people who knew what it meant to show up. I didn't name names, didn't drag them publicly. But I did say this. Blood doesn't make someone family. Presence does. The segment aired that night. Prime time, 6 minutes, 1 voice. No music, no montage. Just me steady, raw, real. The response was instant. Strangers reached out. Veterans, widows, people who said they too came home to empty driveways and quiet rooms. But the silence on the group chat, that was different. My mother left it. No explanation. My brother changed the name from family to simply group. And me. I archived it, because once you've been abandoned in your worst moment, you stop begging for people to become who they should have already been. This story wasn't revenge, it was record, and now it lived beyond their control. It started smaller, letter in my mailbox, no return address, just careful handwriting. I saw you on the news, my husband never made it back. You made me feel less alone than it spread. Local veteran groups shared the clip. A Gold Star Mothers page reposted the full segment. A Military Spouses Network reached out offering support. Flowers, shoulders I didn't ask for, but suddenly needed. And then came the candlelight vigil, organized by strangers, attended by dozens, people I'd never met, people who knew the weight of folded flags. I stood in the back, hoodie up, eyes wide. They weren't mourning with me, they were standing for me, for every person who ever sat alone at an airport curb when they should have been met with open arms. Someone sang softly, girl, no older than 16. Voice cracking on the line, I'll carry you home. I almost lost it. Almost then, I saw something that steadied me again, my brother, on the edge of the crowd, hands in his pockets, head low. He didn't speak, didn't walk over. But he saw all of it, the way strangers showed up when family didn't. The way a community carried what blood refused to touch. The next morning, I got a text from him, no greeting, just didn't think it'd get this big. I stared at the screen, thought about everything I wanted to say, then typed. That's the thing about grief, either builds walls, or it builds bridges. You picked your side. No reply. That was fine. This story wasn't for him anymore. It was for the ones watching, the ones whispering, me too. The ones who needed to know that dignity can bloom where disappointment once stood. A few weeks passed, the flowers on my porch didn't stop, neither did the letters. But something inside me shifted. I didn't want to just be a story people passed around. I wanted to build something, so I did. It started with a name, the Welcome Project, a nonprofit for military spouses returning home alone, airport pickups, meal trains, care teams, not sympathy support, the kind that shows up word spread fast. Volunteers signed up from 5 states in the first 3 days. Someone donated a van, another offered her event space for free. By week 2, we had our first welcome team at JFK standing at arrivals, holding a sign that said, "We've got you." That photo went viral, and suddenly, the Welcome Project was in newspapers, on podcast, and guess who called? My mom. I let it ring. She left a voicemail, her voice cracking by the second sentence. I didn't know how to help. I didn't think you'd want us there. I deleted it. Not out of anger, out of peace. Because I didn't need it anymore. Some wounds don't close because someone apologizes. They close because you stop bleeding. For people who kept watching you drown, my brother. Message to a donation receipt. Small, anonymous. I knew it was him, but I didn't respond. Because this wasn't about guilt. It was about kind that builds vans and care kits and holds signs at the gate when no one else shows up. Sometimes you don't burn bridges, you just build better ones somewhere else. And when people ask me what started at all this project, this movement, always smile and say, a flight that landed at 3 p.m. and nobody came. They called it a quiet revolution. The article was front page, a photo of me at a welcome event. Arms around a young woman holding a folded flag against her chest. Eyes red. Smile fragile. Caption. From grief to ground crew, how one widow changed coming home. The day it ran, I got a text from an unknown number. Just a screenshot of the article. No message. I knew the number. It was my mother's. That evening, I was invited to speak at a local memorial for military families. Not a performance. Not a speech. Just a story. I stood at the podium, the air thick with candlelight and wind. Rows of faces looking up, some proud, some shattered, all listening. I told them what happened, but not with bitterness. I didn't name names, didn't point fingers. I said, I came home alone, but I didn't stay that way. I talked about Liam, my husband, his laugh, his letters, the way he once told me, if something ever happens to me, don't let silence win, and I hadn't. When I stepped off the stage, someone touched my elbow, a woman in pearls, eyes wet. My daughter, she was on your first welcome pickup. You saved her. I shook her hand tight, like that moment was all we needed. Behind her in the distance I saw them, my mother, my brother, standing by a tree. They hadn't been invited. They hadn't announced themselves. They just watched hand. I let them. No wave, no smile. Just the space between us filled with everything they never said. Because sometimes punishment isn't rage. It's silence. It's being replaced. It's watching strangers clap for the daughter you forgot to meet at the gate. I used to believe closure came with an apology, a text, a phone call, a moment where the people who hurt you finally say the words they should have said when it mattered. But it didn't come like that. It came one night quietly, as I stood alone in my kitchen, folding a Welcome Project t-shirt into a care kit for another widow I'd never met. The house was calm. No more group chats, no more waiting for someone to say, we're here. Because now, I was the one showing up, and I was never alone. The doorbell rang, a volunteer. Dropping off supplies, a young couple, newlyweds, both former military. She hugged me like we'd known each other forever, and I realized we had not, in the way family does, in the way truth does, in the way people who survive the silence find each other. I never replied to my mom's last message. I never followed up with my brother's donation, and I never reopened that group chat. Because some people bury you in your silence, and others lift you in theirs. And that's what I'll tell the next woman who asks how to survive the loneliness. I'll tell her what I learned sitting alone at that terminal. You don't rebuild by waiting for them. You rebuild by becoming what they weren't. And one day, when they're watching from the sidelines, when their phones light up with news you never sent directly, when strangers chant your name, and they realize your story doesn't include theirs, they'll understand. Too late, but they'll understand. And you'll already be walking forward, not alone, never again.